Learning how to accept your individuality while attempting to fit in with a social group can be particularly challenging for adolescents because it can be a critical developmental period during which the need to establish a unique identity is being influenced by parents, peers, and society. It is no surprise that teenagers adapt their behavior to attempt to fit in and gain acceptance. Unfortunately, there are religious groups like the LDS Mormons that have dependency-inducing practices, also referred to as brainwashing, influencing adolescents to adhere to religious and cultural beliefs. From the peer pressure teenagers receive from the peer pressure teenagers receive from the parents and peers, how has this caused their mental state? Good morning, my name is Marisol Gonzalez. My research question is, since the 21st century in the United States, to what extent has Mormonism influenced teenagers into adherence affect their mental state? After conducting my research, I have concluded that since the 21st century in the United States, Mormonism influenced teenagers into adherence negatively affects their mental state. What is Mormonism? The Mormon Church was founded by Joseph Smith in 1830, and their religious doctrine taught the practice of polygamy. Polygamy is the practice of having more than one wife at the same time. When the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that polygamy was illegal, the Mormon Church banned the practice of polygamy in 1890. But in the 1930s, 7 polygamists from the Mormon Church banded together to form the religious cult, also known as the Fundamental Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, in order to continue their practice of polygamy. Some of these rules included men marrying underage girls, kids taken out of public schools to work for manual labor with no pay, no TV, no reading, no dating, and no sports. Peer attachment and involvement in family activities have a significant and direct impact on deterring delinquent behavior. According to this chart from the Cultural Evolutionary Trade-off Ritualistic Synchrony by Michelle J. Gelfand stated, ritualistic synchrony increases people's obedience to aggressive and counterproductive group norms and may decrease group creativity. Ritualistic synchrony is defined as the matching of actions in time with others. Ritualistic synchrony can correlate within the LDS cult because it is a group of people matching each other's actions and trying to influence young teenagers to do the same. As you can see in the chart, ritualistic synchrony can be harmful obedience and produce less creativity and less group dissent. During teenagers' developmental stage, parents and peers are a significant source of social support. Teenagers have the fear of being rejected, and the lack of satisfactory peer relations may result in conforming to peer expectations regardless to one's own choices. The regulation of emotions play a significant role in adolescents' decisions to engage in such risky behaviors. Martina Lotor, the author of Peer Pressure in the Adolescent, stated, boys and girls who are more susceptible to peer pressure show higher levels of emotional problem, for example, anxiety and depression. As a result, they have more difficulties developing healthy, secure relationships with others, and which leads to higher social anxiety in peer relations and lower self-worth. As you can see in this chart, teenagers are more than likely to feel anger, fear, disgust, sadness, frustration, and negative emotions with their peers, as you can see in the light green. Mormonism influencing teenagers also has caused behavior problems. First off, teenagers are more than likely to become a follower. As you can see in the chart, in the first line, 69% of teenagers has agreed that with the statement, I would steal something from a store with my friends in order to gain their acceptance. Secondly, teenagers will start to develop ruinous behavior from their peers. As you can see in the second line on this chart, 66% of teenagers have agreed with the fact that, although I don't want to, I would smoke cigarettes in an attempt to fit in. Lastly, making bad decisions to please their peers. As you can see in the third line, 64% of teenagers have agreed that, although I don't want to, I would drink alcohol in an attempt to fit in. Jonica Carlton is the author of Cults, a Psychological Perspective, and stated, cults play on the same psychological and social mechanism that humans have. They sustain basic survival functions and meet our needs for social functioning. Once in a group, we feel the need to protect our group image. We strive to only think positive of it and eventually become so deeply involved that it becomes our own identity. The peer influence in the Mormons' earliest church can cause decision-making, confirmation bias, cognitive dissonance, care about other things, conformity, and aggression. This cognitive model focuses on the interaction and coherence of beliefs of a single individual and how individuals make decisions and change their minds. Some solutions to this problem is for Mormons to reach out to support groups to find ways that they can leave the cult. There are support groups out there that help runaway Mormons develop and adapt to the real world. Secondly is to create awareness so that the people who are influencing and peer pressuring these teenagers can understand what they are doing is wrong. Lastly is to educate others so we can prevent this problem from happening in the future. Some limitations that might occur is since Mormons don't use technology, it's going to be harder for them to reach out to these groups. So via email, texting, or even calling. So it's going to be a lot harder for them to reach out to these support groups. Secondly, these people who are influencing these teenagers might not pay attention, nor might they listen. So they might not care to change. Lastly, others will not care about what's going on. Here's my works cited. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
I do have two questions for you. First up, how valid were the sources that you used, and how do you know they were?
These sources were very valid because at the end of these sources, like for example, these academic journals, it shows where these authors, where they graduated, and most of them were actually professors at very intelligent schools such as University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and BYU.
Okay. And if you had more time, what additional research would you conduct on this issue?
I would probably go behind the scientific of how the scientific way of how they get influenced, just maybe like the neuroscience part of it.